Hey everyone, welcome to my first devlog. It's been a week since I released my prototype, so I decided to do a devlog today. I will probably try to do a devlog every week or every 2 weeks. I'm not decided how often yet, and I'll probably try to leave some tutorials in between as well. So today I want to talk about the two features I've added since last time, or since I released my prototype, which is networking and a room system. Those are the two main things I've added. So if I start this game here, I can click host, and this is a network game. I can then go find my other client here. This is the best way I found to run two clients at the same time. Is just launch your application from the second Godot instance from launcher. I don't know if anyone knows a better way, then please let me know. So there you can see as I joined, the other player snapped into place really quickly. So if you have a little look here, I'll go the screen up, and you can now see my second player here. All the animations are working. I can use my skill. I can shoot. That being said, it is a bit laggy at the moment because my syncing isn't great. You can see the bullets are coming out a bit random on the host client there, because while they look good on the second client, they aren't perfectly synced up. So this is something I'm working on. So the second thing I've added is this room system. So I don't know if you noticed when I was in my project, but this part here was actually not there. It's been loaded after the game started. So if I go in here with both players, this room will lock behind me, and it will open up so we can keep going. Oh, it's name tag moved. Interesting. So once both players are in the room will lock behind me. You will see there are 3 connectors here, horizontal and vertical connectors, and they are all closed at the moment. They are should be closed for both players, and as soon as the host enters the circle, it causes the room to be cleared, and the connector opens. And here there's a little bug. This connector, you can see the end of it when you walk into it. So you can now see when I walk in with the second client, you can see that the next room will pop into existence as soon as both players are in there. There is a little bit of lag, which I think I can avoid by preloading them and just preloading rooms and not putting them into node tree, but I haven't really looked into it yet because it's generally working. I only have this one main room and these 2 different connectors at the moment, with a vertical and a horizontal connector. So next up, let's have a look at the code, shall we? Here you can see this was the main room I started in. Here we have the horizontal corridor, the vertical corridor, and the arena itself. And I will show you how I stitch it together, but the code I will show you later, but I can show you now there are these attachment points on the side. Here, for instance, bottom and the top point, and these corridors have these points as well, left and right here, and the blockers here also left, top and bottom. And what I do is I basically just line the points up with each other, and as long as you set them up correctly in the scenes, everything will just perfectly fit together, which is great, and it's not very difficult to do. So let's go have a look at first the networking library I've been using. I've increased the font size. Hopefully this is better, as I got some complaints about my font size being too small last time. So the network library I'm using is this MDFramework. I will link it below for you, so to the GitHub, so you can try it out yourself and use it if you want to. I will tell you how to use it, the basics right now. First of all, you have some new keywords you can use, such as this auto register. This means that when you know this instance, the framework will pick it up. And then you have these replicated tags you can use that you can, or attributes you can put on your members. And this means that this value will be replicated to all clients, and only the owner of the object should change it. You need to take care of that yourself, but if you do, you can do simple stuff like this, where I have to lock the room. I just toggle these flags, they're replicated to the other clients, and then when the property is changed on the client, I have this set method that calls toggle blocker, and here we actually change this vertical blocker scene, and we make it visible or invisible, whatever. And the same goes for my player. We have here we're in the middle of the networking code, but at the top we have a bunch of here we have a bunch of replicated variables. And then if we go down, back down to the networking code, handle network, you can see here, if I am not the owning client, I do smoothing out some networking, try to sync up to what the owner is, at what state the owner is. And if I am the owner, I have this little class here that just allows me to update 10 times a second. It's a very simple timer class that just counts down and set this update. Is it the update frame? Yes or no. Every 10 seconds it sets, or 10 times a second it sets to true. And when it's set to true, we update our network variables. So I have the same for the aim direction, but it's not here. And that's how networking actually works in my game. It's not much more than that. There's one more thing you need to take care of. That's when you spawn nodes, but it's all explained in the library. And that is that you use these spawn network node functions on the host. I am thinking of making a small example project for this, if people are interested, maybe with a short tutorial on how to use it. Of course, I am not a master of using this framework yet. I've just started with it a few days ago, so I'm still kind of figuring things out. One thing I had some issues with was this, that I tried to spawn the player when a player joined, and I did it in here, which caused the node to be replicated twice across the network because of how when onPlayerJoin is called, onPlayerJoin is called before nodes are synchronized across the network. So what happens is when you call this spawn network node, one command is sent over the network to spawn the node, and then after this, if you call it in here, afterwards node synchronization would happen and a second call would be sent for the same node. So if you decide to use this framework, make sure you do a deferred call if you're going to spawn the player after they have joined. I'm not going to say more about it now. If you're interested in me making a tutorial and an example for this framework, then feel free to leave a comment below and I will consider it. So let's look at the second feature I've added, which is this room stitching. This is also very, very simple. I have a scene manager here. And in my scene manager, I have two important subclasses. This here is room information, which basically just contains a room and what the previous room was. So it's a linked list, basically, that I maintain. And there's some additional support features, but what I do is when you enter a room, I set this current room variable here. I set it to the room that you enter. So set current room sets it to the room that you entered, and then the last room becomes the previous room. This allows me to clean up rooms that you are now locked out of, because every transition room locks behind you, so then I know that anything before that transition room can be cleaned up, and yeah, so we don't keep rooms that are not active around. I also made a little room provider, which is not done here. This just contains a list of our rooms and list of transitions. The reason I did this is because I loaded from this path, which you can see has Act 1 in it, which should probably explain why I did this. Because I plan on just simply creating an Act 2 when I start working on my next act, which will have different rooms, and then I can just use this room provider and with a different path and hopefully the rest of my code will work. I still don't have the generation of a map or anything like that. I just have 2 room definitions, a transition room and a normal room, and then I have some supporting code prepared here for getting room IDs and stuff. And here I can get the transition of the correct type. So if the entry is on the left or the right, I get a horizontal transition, and if it's on the top or the bottom, I get a vertical transition. And if it's unknown, which it never is at the moment, it will be an intersection, which I have not made yet. Yeah, that's my room provider. It's used by the scene manager to provide rooms. We can have a little look here. So you can see here, we just get the room of the room ID, which currently only returns the same room. And we do the same when we need a transition. We also use the room provider to get transition scene. The reason I do this, once again, is because I want to have different transition scenes in the different acts, because there's going to be different textures and stuff like this. So then I can just switch out the room provider and keep the rest of the code the same. And you will also see a lot of this is client stuff around here, which is just to ensure that no client is running this code. So let's have a small look at my transition room, which is the base of all my transition rooms. As you can see here, there's some networking. This was the locking stuff. But here you can see I tried to resolve all the attachment points. They don't have to be there, and I try to resolve blockers if there are any. Then I call open room, which will open any blockers that are there, if they are there. And I have this on all players enter the room, which is triggered by an area 2D that we have down here near the bottom, where I actually check if it's my player class, which is my named player elf still, because I'm too lazy to rename it. And I check how many players in the room versus how many players are in the game. And if everyone's inside, I make sure that I only send out this event once, and I send out everyone is in the room event, and set this to the current room because every player is there. And then I call up this one, which I can then override in. This is my base class for my transition rooms, and this is my base class for the normal rooms. And you see here I override it to lock the last room, which would always be a transition, because when you enter a room, you're entering from a transition. So yeah, this is not really a tutorial on how to do this. I could make a tutorial on how to actually do this and an example project with my code, without the networking, of course, so that you could, or maybe even with the networking, I can combine them so that you can try it out for yourself. And if people are interested in it, just feel free to leave a comment. There's one thing I wanted to show you, one last thing, and that is how I actually position my rooms. Here we go, here's the position room, which once again is a network thing, because I need to make sure that all players on the network position it. So this method is called from both of these when the room position is set, and we just check that both of them have been set. And once both of them are set, I can just set the global position of the room to the global position that is passed in, minus the offset of whatever the local position of this point. So I get the local position of the attachment point, and I subtract it from the global position that I want to position my room at. Which the global position that I want to position my room at is, of course, the attachment point of the other room. And that causes them to line up perfectly like they do now. I also have this collect and move Y-sort objects, because I need objects in the room to be Y-sorted, and to do that there is a Y-sort list. So I introduce a property or an attribute that I can tag classes with. so that they are marked as a Y-sort object, and then they will be picked up automatically and moved into the Y-sort list, but they will still be remembered by the room that they exist, and then they will be deleted. So that's what I've been doing for this past week. Here is an example. This vertical blocker that you saw in my example is a Y-sort object. So if you play in single player, you will see here are my rooms under the scene manager. If I go in here, you see more rooms have been spawned, and if we go into the main menu, you will see there's a Y-sort list, and the blockers and the player and bullets and everything else is actually inside this Y-sort. So if I shoot, a bullet appears there at the bottom. And if I keep moving, you will see that as I keep going upwards, stuff will get spawned and despawned. Maybe even easier to see here in the room list. You can see that the rooms they aren't really, the amount of rooms isn't growing. Every time I enter a room, old rooms that are not used are purged and the new rooms are created. Alright, that was a lot of rambling. Probably too much code maybe in this devlog. If you have any comments, let me know what you think, and I will try to do better next time. Thanks for watching.